Oh. Hi.
Hey, oh, you got a baby on the bed.
I do. That's my girl Mitz.
Aw,
My beautiful angel in fur form. That's what I always call her. She's my little angel in fur form.
oh, I love it.
So
I've got girls and would have more if I could stand it. So it's so nice to meet you.
you too, April. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I love your handle.
Thank you.
So we were I know texting earlier about like it was like in November or December when my guides were telling me I know you suffer with self image and self worth and self love, but you need to start doing some Zoom things. And I was like, no, I don't want to. Um, there's this comfort level of hiding behind things.
Oh yeah, I can totally relate to this 100%. Like I was telling you, like a year ago, there's no way that I would have ever been like okay and comfortable with just going like off the hop, coming online and recording something and then putting it out there for people to see. But I feel like it's funny because in the group, I don't know if you know Robbie Alexander or Lara Sisson.
What?
They're approved readers in that the psychic and medium and gifted group, and they had approached me and they said let's do a podcast. And at first I was very apprehensive about it because that's one thing I've always struggled with throughout my life is being in the spotlight and having eyes on me. I don't like being the center of attention, but I feel like that was a necessary transition because of my evolution as a psychic medium. And now I'm doing lives. I'm more comfortable putting myself out there. I do a podcast weekly, but now it's going to go to bi-weekly. So I've really developed a lot of, I guess, comfortability. I don't even know if that's a word, but I feel a lot more comfortable putting myself out there. And I'm kind of just okay with, if I make a mistake or I look stupid or someone doesn't like something I have to say, I'm okay with it because you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And I think I've just really grown to really love myself because that was something I struggled with throughout my entire life was I never felt I was good enough. And I struggle with high functioning anxiety, but I've worked through a lot of that. And I try to use it to my advantage. But it's been such a transformative experience to just put myself out there and not really. And I'm not going to say that, I don't ever see comments or things that upset me. I'm not, impenetrable, but
But
I don't let it take me out anymore where I let it affect my self-worth because I know I come from my heart and I know I'm here for the right reasons. And that's really all that matters. So,
but
yeah.
that's kind of what started this. And at first, you get messages, or the way I get mine is like it's not complete laid out details for you. It's just like little bits here and there. And so I was like, okay, but they kept telling me like, all of the healers, not just me, like it's time and you've got to put yourself where you can be found, you can be seen, you can be heard so that other people that need you and your services can resonate. And I'm like, okay, but so I didn't really know exactly how that was going to unfold. So I have my own business, and it's called Shows Healing Frequencies. So I thought, well, okay, I'm going to do a YouTube video, invite people to come on and learn about frequencies. And it started out that way in December, but that felt like work. Like I had to sit down and think about, okay, what am I going to talk about? And you know, okay. And so I did one on like color therapy and how color is frequency, blah, blah, blah. And then I did one on, spiritual hygiene. But it just felt like work.
Mm.
And then I kind of sat with it for a little while. And then it popped in my mind, like, why don't you interview this other frequency healer that lives in in the UK? And wouldn't that be fun to like talk to her and like say, okay, we're doing the same thing, how does that look like for you over there, and like blah blah blah. And I had such fun with that that I was like, oh. And then I did post in like one of the chats. It was one of my groups that I've created. Like, tell me about who all the healers are and what do you do. And like I literally got like 20 people chiming in, and my guides were like, there's your list. And I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, this has been going on since January and not that long, but I've got like 3 interviews this week and like I am having a blast. And I made a joke yesterday when I was interviewing another professional medium. I said, when my daughter was a teenager and like, they just don't like your parents anymore. I practiced like every time we would go to town, I would talk to strangers because they were so much nicer to me than the conversations that was coming out of her. And I was like, I didn't know that I was preparing, just to jump on a Zoom and talk to strangers. But I've always been that person. I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse 27 years, and
Thank you for your service. Thank you.
I mean, and that's literally how nurses feel, like we've been in the military. But
It's true because I work in healthcare. I'm not a nurse, but I worked in healthcare, and I always have such great appreciation for people that serve in any capacity in the healthcare system because it is an extremely tough job. So thank you.
well, thank you. But that career, you're constantly with a new patient, a new family. So I think that kind of helped me also be that person that, I can talk to anybody. It doesn't bother me. But like you, a lot of healers and people that deal with taking care of others tend to have a problem with taking care of themselves. So I had to work through a lot of that too. And but this has been fabulous. Like I love the energy of just jumping on here, and like I generally am interested in every single healer I talk to, and psychic medium and Reiki master, and like I want to know like what's your story. It's time for all of us to come out of the closet or behind the doors and be seen. So like my guide said, so people can find us, and because it is time. It's time that we're needed for what's going to be happening, and we're needed for these people. Someone's more inclined to get on here and watch a video about what you do before they actually call and book you. So it's just a comfort level. Like, oh, I'm thinking about doing this, but I'm not quite sure. So I just want there to be videos, and I try to label them the same: a conversation with an animal communicator, conversation with a frequency professional, conversation with a psychic medium, because I want it to just be a laid back. I want people to see who you really are. You are a person. You've been through your own struggles, and this just kind of progressed into where you're at, and you're here to help people. And I want them to be able to see that in its true raw form. And that's what I don't even really like for us to talk before now, because I want it to be, I want it to be what it is. Like, I'm generally pumped here to hear your story, and I don't want to hear it and then have to try to pretend like, oh yeah, that's exciting. I want it to be fresh and what it is. So anyway, tell me all about it. How did it start?
I have been actually aware of spirit since I was a child.
Okay.
So I'm a natural born psychic medium. And just for anyone who's watching this that may get discouraged, because I see this actually a lot in the community where people think, oh, I wasn't, born, this way, which means I can't do this work. Nothing could be farther from the truth. So I just want to say, if you're watching this,
I'm not naturally born, and I do this as well, but not until you do.
So I've been aware since I was a child, and it scared me. I'm not going to lie. When I was in my room as a child, I was aware. I didn't know it then, but it was my spirit team and also my grandparents who had come forward, and I knew there was spirit there. I could feel it. And I've always had this inner knowing that there's more than what we see. So my mom is actually also a natural born medium, but she was completely shut down, but she would still have experiences. So she would always talk about her experiences. So when I started having experiences with, visitations in my room, I told my mom, and she said, don't ever tell anyone what you're experiencing. They'll put you in the mental hospital. So I was very fearful, and I was also bullied as a child. So I was like, the last thing I want to do is ever talk about this with anyone, because I'm already, teased and made fun of at school. This is just going to be complete, social, destruction. So I hid that for a very, very long time. And my mom was also religious, but she also, had experiences with spirit. But I grew up going to church. So when I would go to church and, you'd read the Bible, you're seeing and hearing things that make you feel like you're an abomination to the Lord and people like you are evil and you're demonic. And that just didn't make any sense to me because I knew within myself there was this great love and empathy and sensitivity and wanting to help people. And I was like, this cannot be wrong. This cannot be demonic because there's so much love inside of me that I just want to pour out to everyone. I want to show everyone that there's more than what we see. So growing up, that kind of, I was going to say messes with you mentally. I was trying to think of a cleaner way to say that, but I'll speak from my heart. It definitely did a number on me mentally. And, I'd go to youth group and I eventually got kicked out for questioning the beliefs of the church. So eventually I stopped going. Luckily, my father, who actually doesn't believe in God, so it's an interesting dynamic. My mom was religious, medium. He used to tell her that she was crazy for like the spirit she would see. He doesn't believe in God. But my dad is also very open-minded. So he would always tell me, like, don't ever let, anyone else make up your mind for you. You do all the research, you figure things out and you make up your own mind. So that's when I really started to question things, but I was still kind of nervous about coming out because I was probably like in high school then. And it wasn't talked about the way that it is now. I feel like now it's more mainstream, it's more acceptable. But back then, like it still wasn't,
You couldn't have
very.
it, you just couldn't.
Hmm. So, and I remember seeing like the Matrix movie come out and just seeing that and thinking like, oh my God, there's other people who think just like I do, and that there's more than what we see here. And I would have like various experiences throughout my life. I would go to this one place. We used to go walking and like hiking in this one trail, and there was always this one orb, and no one would ever see it except for me. Um, I had my grandmother actually materialize right in front of me one day standing in my kitchen. So I'd always have these experiences that I just couldn't ignore. And eventually it got to a point, it was probably 2021. And I kind of was already like into crystals and I already kind of knew a little bit about spirituality, but I was still very scared of opening up fully. And that's very common in the beginning stages of a journey because you're like fear of the unknown. And I started taking Reiki and I just wanted to learn like Reiki level one. There was someone I was following and they were offering it for like, I don't know, $50. And I thought, okay, this is online. Like I can do that. And literally, when she did the attunement on me, it was like I was watching life through a regular channel. I got attuned, and it was like all of a sudden life was in HD and colors and vibrations and feelings. And, just it was like this expansion of awareness. And I was like, whoa. And then I was like, okay, now I want to do level two because there's even more symbols and there's like a time symbol. And, I want to help other people. I want to be able to heal or not heal, but facilitate energetic healing for someone else. And then when I did masters, I actually asked for, because my teacher had told me, she said, and I actually did level 1 to 3 twice. I did it online, I did it in person. And when I did my in person one for masters, she told us that we could ask for something. And I always say, I always tell people, be careful what you wish for, because I asked for greater clairvoyancy and I got what I wished for. And things started coming online for me. I started seeing like angels, hooded figures, which I now know is actually one of my guides. People who had crossed over, animals started coming to me. I was doing sessions on people, and their parents would show up or their friend would show up, people that had crossed over. So it was kind of, I'm not going to lie, because I'm very open about my journey and pretty much my whole life. It was scary. And I didn't really know how to handle it, Um, because we're just coming back out of like COVID, where like, I worked from home. I know I live by myself and, I'm going through all of these things emotionally and spiritually. And now I'm seeing things and I'm thinking like, am I crazy? Like
That's a
I'm
lot.
thinking back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking back to when I was a kid and my mom's like, they're going to put you in the mental hospital. You don't forget something like that. So
So you
I
just got
started.
COVID and then, or no, you didn't get used to it, but you just went through that, and then now you've got a whole other layer of things to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so I thought I was on Instagram one day, and I don't believe in coincidence. I believe just like how I came across you, I'm meant to be here today. We're meant to have this discussion. And I was on Instagram and I, I'm bad with social media because I'm a little bit behind. I've only been on for like 2 years, but I was on like, I guess it's like the little search button. You can see all the different videos and pictures that other people upload. And I happened to come across this reel, and it ended up being my first mentor. And she was offering a mediumship development course. And I was absolutely petrified, but I just knew in my heart, I was like, this isn't all happening by chance. You've come across this person.
Mhm.
She's so confident, which is something I lacked severely. People always, like, how is that possible? But I actually did suffer from, lack of self-worth, lack of confidence, lack in belief of myself. And this lady just exhumed confidence. And, I think at the time she'd been practicing for 10 years. And I checked out her website, and, I took the plunge and I booked it. And I was absolutely so petrified, but it totally transformed my life, because sitting in a circle, you meet people who are on the same path, and then you don't feel so alone, because a lot of people in my personal life, they support me. Some people don't, and that's okay. Um, but they don't really understand the extent of what we're going through, because they're just not walking that same path, and that's okay. But I found you need community in this type of work, because it can be very isolating. And I just find that there's such power and love in numbers, and joining forces with other light workers, because the world is so heavy right now. We obviously came here to uplift the vibration. And it's no coincidence we're here at this point in time, doing what we do. So I love connecting with people. I love hearing other people's stories. I love sharing my story, because I know, like, and I've had people reach out to me who have seen my podcast or see me talk about something, and they've said, like, I know exactly how you feel. Like, that's why I booked a reading with you. Is, people, I feel like when they can relate to your story, and they see, like, oh my God, like, she's gone through this, and she's accelerating in life, I can do that too. And that's what lights me up, is empowering people and showing people you're not, trapped by your programming. There is a way out. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And I know what it's like to be, stuck in that cave, but you can make it out. And I want to show people it's possible. So that's what lights me up.
And that's exactly like what this is doing for me too. Like there's something, like you said, magical about the other healers joining forces in a way. We all have our own individuality and style, but it's like I look at everybody like kind of like Transformers. Like everybody's their own badass, robot.
I love that.
But then, but then we come together, and we connect. And
Hmm.
this kick-ass robot. And I feel that energy, and I know you have too. Like when you're around other light workers, there's this, I don't know, this this energy that's just, we feed off each other. We almost like, what I'm trying to think of the word, um, we spark each other. Like I activate, we activate
Hmm.
each other. And then your story about coming across someone online, that's kind of similar to a story I've got too. Is I watched an interview with this lady that she actually was born with all the clairs, and she tries to empower women and come into their gifts as well. So I had done a mentorship with her, and she's very, very, very active with her guides and other guides. That she was talking to my guides, and she just very talkative. And one day we're having our session, and she's like, "Oh yeah, oh, and they're just now mentioned to me that I was your mother in a past life," and I'm like,
Oh,
but it's just crazy how like we are pulled towards certain people. And I don't know why, out of all the people that I had searched and seen online, I was pulled towards contacting her. And then for her to say that, I was like, Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense why I was pulled, because she might not have been the best mentor. She had her own issues and, she was a little scattered. But for some reason, I was pulled towards her. And then she just kind of blurted it out one day. Oh, by the way, they just let me know I was your mother in a past life. And it's like, oh, okay, that's why. So it's like once you realize that you've been just about anything and everyone, you know, when you first start waking up, I had this huge want to I want to know who I was and where I'm from and what star seed I am. And, you go down that path and it's very exciting. But then you get to the point where you realize you've been just about everything. And my guides just kept telling me that's not going to help you on what you're here to do today. And I'm like, oh, but I think it will. But that was just me being nosy. So yeah, I'm continuing to kind of figure out things that I've done or I've here to do. And what was funny is I had paid a lady to do my Akashic records, and she's like, "Well, your guides are here, and they're telling me that I know you paid me, but they're not wanting me to tell you just yet what you're here to do." And I'm like, "What?" So. She told me a little bit, but what it was is she said that I had some secret mission to help my community. And this was about 3 or 4 years ago. And of course, me being green at that time, I was thinking, am I going to be picking up litter on the side of the road? Am I volunteering at the senior center? I had no idea what helping my community really, what she meant by that. And so this is part of it. I've built a building in my community, and I invite in Reiki masters, I invite in hypnotherapists, I invite in, my guides kept saying one-stop shop. I want everyone to be able to come in and use the building to see clients that need that one-on-one. Some practitioners can do it remotely. They don't have to have a space. But in my area that I live in North Alabama, there's just, healers don't make a ton of money. They just can't afford to go rent a building and pay, rent to provide their services to people. So that's what I ended up doing for my community, was providing this healing alternative center that is welcoming anybody who has good intentions for the community to come in and have a place. And I don't charge rent. I don't charge a commission. If they align with my values and they are truly here to help serve people, then they're welcome to book an appointment here and see their clients.
You're just phenomenal. I love that. How selfless of someone to offer that, and to give other space to, assist in the community. That's so selfless. I absolutely adore you and your service to community and to spirit and to self. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I don't know. It's kind of like I've got 10 dresses in the closet and, someone needs one. I've never looked at things. I know that I've always looked at things differently than other people. So, it's kind of like that day you wake up and you're like, not everyone thinks like you do.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me a long time to understand that. But then you get to a point where you choose not to be like everyone else. And, that's why I was telling you, I really resonated with your handle and stuff is, it is time for us to be who we really are. And I had another client ask me, or another healer ask me, does it bother you what your community might say or think about what you do? And I'm like, really and truly, I don't care.
You get to that point.
You get to that point, I don't really heavily advertise. I just make myself available for people that are looking for alternative healing. Plus, I'm a nurse. So I do let people know, I'm a nurse. I am an intuitive healer. I work with frequency, but I have a sound bedroom. I have crystals. I have another room that I just opened that I'm calling the hydrocranial nervous system reset room, which is a head start. But I'm not, you can't license I can't put treatments on the scalp because I'm not a cosmetologist, and I can't do deep tissue massages, but I still can do like light touch, like as what a nurse would do. And I can do water hydrotherapy, which I use tuning forks to also imprint frequency
Cool.
to the water. And I just do like breath work, little small breath work, energy healing. But it's all about, my guides were telling me, it's all about the water is emotion, the water is letting go, the water is healing. And I had this frequency room, and then I had this heated infrared sound bed, room. So I had the heat, had the fire, had the frequency, but I needed the water. So I kind of have like a 3-step room. So yeah, that's opening up this next week, and I'm excited about that. Like,
There's to come and get a treatment.
There's just so much power in simple things, like as you know, just holding space for someone to release, to know that it's okay to take that exhale. And then, you use the tools that you have to help signal frequencies. For me, or just like when you're using tuning forks or whatever, is your body's like a signal. It's almost like a text message to say, hey, we're safe. You can let down the wall. You can take that deep breath. You can relax. And then we work on, okay, now what's under here? What's bothering you? Where's the thorn, And I just kind of help guide that person into whatever it is they're ready to talk about, they're ready to acknowledge, and they're wanting to let go of. And so all my sessions tend to be a little bit different. They may book something, but then it may turn into something else when they're here, because I'm kind of guided as well. So it's just been interesting to walk my own journey, because I've always been that nurse, that healer, but now I get to use more tools, and I get to use more intuition, more guidance, and even my guides, come in and help me too. And which is so funny, because I know sometimes they'll tell me, go sit down, we've got this. And I'm like, okay. So I would go sit down in the corner. And I had one lady that could see energies, and she said she had her eyes closed and she could see like green hands working above her. And then she said all of a sudden, like multiple hands came in. And so it kind of surprised her. And she said, I opened my eyes and looked, and you were sitting over in the chair. And I'm like, well, yeah, they told me to go sit down. So, you never know when you're going to have that client that has abilities. And so that's just been nice for me to kind of like, you just know certain things, but then they were able to confirm what I felt was going on. And so, I mean, I never know, I have a session, and sometimes they'll tell me, let's just do frequency, let's do sound bed. All they need today is just to be held. And then some days it's more specific of do this, and then we're going to do energy work. And then this person just needs to ground, don't work up in the higher chakras because they live there. It just depends on what's going on with that individual. But it's been, it's continuously been exciting. And then they threw this in on me, and this is, at first I was like, I'm comfortable behind the door. Because at first I was just all about, promoting all the other healers that worked in my business. And that was a lot more comfortable for me to share their work and book a session with so-and-so. I didn't realize that I was going back into my habit of hiding, a little bit. And so they were like, nope, it's time. They just keep talking about 2026. It's time to ring the bell, is what they actually said. It's time to put that broadcast out there, call in your tribe, and also fix it to where the people that are going to need the healers can find you. So that's what how all this kind of happened, because I want to promote all of the healers and all the wonderful people that I meet. And like you said, I know I don't meet you by accident.
Right.
But then I'm also learning how to promote myself as well. So.
I love that. And too, I always tell, this comes up actually a lot in readings with, and I know I've I need to, or I've been looking at this myself, is I always want to be, at the finish line. I want to be, all these things. But it's, we also need to remember it's a journey and it's okay. And we work through things, and that's part of the adventure of life, right? And not resenting the journey and just allowing it to flow, because a lot of times I know I've wanted, I want to be the best, but and eventually I'm, I'm dedicated to spirit and to serving myself and others. And I know eventually, my mediumship will deepen, and I've seen that. But it doesn't happen overnight. I feel like sometimes people come to me and they want this instant fix, and there is. I always remind people, I say, like, this is a work in progress. Like, this is a journey. It's not a race. So I know you want to get to that finish line, because I was that same way, and I've kind of, stepped back and allowed life to flow. And I feel like it's like releasing control and allowing spirit to take you where you and your soul want to go, and relinquishing that need to always try to control everything because it makes us feel safe.
Yeah, and that's exactly how mine came through. Because I had abilities when I was little, but I didn't know. Because, like I said, just
Hmm.
like as an adult, I didn't know that everyone didn't think like I did.
Mm.
Realized people didn't see or pick up on things either. So I remember one highly particular night where all these orbs came in the room. I guess I was around 5 years old. Never had anything that has ever frightened me, but it was just, I remember even like rubbing my eyes, like, like what, like I knew I was seeing something strange, but it didn't bother me. Um, but it wasn't until later in life where, I was watching shows on television where they were like orbs caught on video. And I was like, wait a minute. I've seen that before. So I've had things, I've audibly heard voice before. And that doesn't happen as often as just the telepathy type hearing. Um,
Hmm.
Finally figured out. I remember when I first woke up, I was kind of laughing because I had, hired someone to do my records, like I said, and like I just wanted to know everything. Like I paid her money, and it was like, okay, I had all my questions. And she was just like, they're not wanting you to know all this right now, and I was just like, what? So they had to explain to me that when we come here, we set up when we're going to do what we're going to do and when that's going to happen. And they were just explaining that because I kind of laugh about it, saying I was having my 2-year-old Kmart fit because I wanted it right now. And they were like, your guides are here to follow what you put in place for yourself, the experience that you created and you wanted for you. And we are not here to deviate from that. And I was just like, dang it. But
Want to know.
once I understand that the only person I could be mad at was myself, then it kind of helped me. I'm a fire sign, and I just was like, when I want something, I want it yesterday. And so it helped me to hear that and just kind of take a moment to realize, okay, you created this experience for yourself. Whatever you wanted to experience is going to happen and when it's going to happen. And so I just kind of released that control, and just kind of, it's like, okay. And then it's kind of funny, as soon as I did that, things started happening a little bit quicker. But yeah, I still want it all today. I don't want to wait, but I do understand that there's this beautiful unfolding that happens. And when you said the adventure, I've been saying that all year, like since January. I feel real strongly. I don't know if you remember. I am not a reader myself, but they have these books called Choose Your Own Adventure book, and
Oh,
you'll
yeah.
yeah, they'll read the story and like you'll get to the end of the page and then say, okay, if you want to choose to wear the red dress, turn to page 10. And if you want to wear the black dress, turn to page 50. And like you get to these points in this book where you have to make a choice. And of course, the story changes dramatically just from making these choices. And I keep feeling like 2026 is everyone's choose your own adventure book. And you're going to have
Love that.
You're going to have the people choose to stay in the old world system and not, explore something new and different. And that's completely fine. But you're going to have a lot of people that are wanting to peek what happens if they wear the red dress, Um, and you're going to need people to help explain things. And even though the mentor I had, like I said, she's wonderful, but I know why I chose her. It was more of a past life connection than the fact that she explained things easily. I want to, she kept telling me, for example, you've got to do the work, you've got to do your work, and no one really explained to me what that work was.
Mm.
And it was like, well, okay, I'm here, I'm ready, I'm willing, but like I didn't know what is the work. And I kind of had to figure it out on my own, but it basically was what I learned is whatever sets me off, whatever triggers me into anger, into sadness, into frustration, those are your body's way of your cues, kind of like the check engine light on your car. Like there's something here that's unhealed. And so I started being like, okay, why did I lose my crap when so-and-so said this? Because when I went back and looked at it, it really wasn't that big of a deal, but why did it affect me so much? And then kind of trying to figure out what was underneath all that. And a lot of times it would come back to me feeling questioned in my self-worth, the things that I mentioned earlier. But then if you believe that healers repeat things in life, and that you were a healer in the past, or someone accused of being a witch, or your life was taken because of your beliefs and your abilities, then yeah, that causes a lot of us to come in with self-worth issues, self-expression issues, stay more comfortable hidden. And, learning those things really did help me to do the work and heal those things to where I can do those. But, no one explained to me what the work really was. And it's going to be different, for everyone. But for me, figuring out what made me snap into anger or being upset, those were kind of like the check engine lights, that I started paying attention to, and just sitting with that and trying to figure out, okay, does this happen? Yeah, this happens all the time. For me, if someone, like, let's say I put a bookshelf up, and then someone comes in and goes, oh, did you know that you have it upside down? It's like instant attack, but they're not attacking me. So why do I feel that way? But I feel like there's a lot of that, oh, you're a woman, you did it wrong. I don't know, where all that come from, because I really have never been treated that way in this lifetime. It just triggers me into feeling like I'm being belittled. I'm being told that, I'm stupid. I can't do anything right. And so there's a lot of that I've got to work on and heal. And, even when I look back on it, I'm like, oh, why did I act like that? Nobody said those things to me. They just pointed out that I had the bookshelf upside down, which is comical now. But yeah, just that I just didn't realize when people would tell me, you've got to do the work. I didn't really even understand what that looked like.
And mediumship development for me, because for me, that's like development of self, actualization of self, right? When I hear like doing the work, it's like, for me, everything starts within. So it's, and that was something that I, dealt with in mediumship development, and I still am, is looking at all of those shadow parts, looking at the triggers. Why do I feel not worthy? Why do I not have confidence the same way that other people do? Why do I think I'm not good enough? So, and then you get all the doubts, and I don't trust myself, and there's so many things that go into that. And when I developed as a medium, I feel like if you are fully immersed in that experience, it will dig up everything that needs to be shown, because that stuff, it's all about becoming a clear channel to be able to channel spirit clearer. So, and that clarity will bring immense transformation. So for me, that speaks all about development of self. And it sounds like you've done a lot of work. And it's like, I just want to say, for anyone listening, it is a lot of work, but it is worth it.
Oh yeah.
It is worth it.
But I just remember when I first started, and I've got a few clients that come to me, and I see the same confusion in them. Like they know there's something going on. They know there's something they should be doing. They know that they always have this family or friends that don't get it, don't understand. So you tend to keep it to yourself, and I see that. And for me, I feel like it took me a lot longer than it should have to figure out what it was that I was supposed to be doing. So I truly try to get out there, and when I do recognize that I have clients or anyone just being on that ledge of like, I don't know where to start, I don't know where to look, of trying to help at least explain that, like, it's okay to not have all the answers the next day. This is a process. This is a journey. The biggest thing is that you are questioning things now. You are taking a moment and it's like, I'll tell them, like, don't take everything I say for the gospel. It may not feel right for you, but you're asking questions, you're looking into it, and you're not just taking like, this is what we should do. And you're like, why? But then, no, you've just never had an answer your whole life. It's just like, this is what we do. Now I want to know, well, why do we do that? Do I feel like I want to participate in that anymore? And it doesn't bother me who gets it or who don't, because I fully understand that I'm not here for everyone.
Right.
I just need to be here for the ones that are looking and needing and wanting. And it really doesn't matter if my neighbor or the community or someone in New York doesn't understand or agree with what I said or what I'm doing. It doesn't matter, because we're all individual. We're all here for different reasons. And I'm only here for the people that are looking for answers and a place to go. And then I'm hoping by watching all of my YouTube videos with the Frequency Hour that they can resonate with someone that I interview, that they feel like, just like I did, oh, that's the person that I need to go to. That's the person that I feel a connection to, and that I feel like there's something more here. And so that's kind of my why. It's not to convince anyone that they're wrong or they should look at things differently. It's just for information for those that are starting to wake up and realize, like you said, there's more to what we just see on the surface. And, if they wanted to pull that book off the shelf and start the choose your own adventure book, I make a joke that I'm almost 50 years old. And if this is a midlife crisis, this is great. Like, I am having a blast. Because I'm able to, like, I'm at a point where all my kids are pretty much grown and they're taking care of themselves. And I actually have time to learn more about crystals and learn more about mediumship and learn more about anything that I want. Whereas so long in my life, I was dictated what I had to learn. When you go to nursing school, you have to take these classes. You have to learn about this. When you get a job, you've got to do this orientation. You've got to learn about this every year. And now I find myself at a place where I can choose what I'm interested in. If I want to learn how to rebuild a car motor, I can. If I want to learn more about spirituality, I can. And it's very exciting to be at a point where you feel like you've got your own book, you're reading your own story, and you are in control of how that story unfolds.
You really are. You have more power than you realize. And that's another thing that I love to show people too, is that, like, you really can create your reality, and you can change and you can shift things and you can transform. Because I feel a lot of people get stuck because they just don't know where to go. I see that a lot. So, and there's just overwhelmed with everything that's going on in their personal life. And then you've got the world, the collective energy, right? And then you've got, this part of you that knows that there's so much more, and you don't really understand what that is. You just know, and you feel it with every ounce of your being. And I know exactly what that's like from childhood. I was like, this can't just be life. And what you said earlier, it's like, you grow up and your parents tell you who to be. You got to go to school, you got to get a job, you have to graduate. If you don't graduate when you're 18, like, and you don't get married and have kids and do all these things. And I remember thinking, like, I couldn't think of anything. And this is my own personal perspective, I knew from a young age I was not going to live a traditional life. And I would love to get married in the future, but I always knew I was never going to follow that traditional path. And I took a lot of flack from it, from my family, because they wanted me to get married. And I was with someone for a long time. I ended up actually walking away from that relationship. And that was actually what propelled me into a spiritual awakening, and now I'm a medium. So if I'd stayed in that situation and played the 3D part, and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever, I just knew that that wasn't my path, and I couldn't think of anything more suffocating than staying in that situation because it was safe. And
everyone
you
laughs
know
because like my whole family, cousins, everyone is like they married one person and they stay with that person to death do you part, blah blah blah. And I'm like on marriage number 3. And then like people look at me like I have a horn growing out of my head when I say I'm going to be with someone until it's not fun no more. And then like, you got to go. Like, I don't see anything wrong with that. And then they just look at me like, well, that's ugly. And I'm like, no. Why would that be ugly? Like, why is it not okay for two people to come together and live this happy life? And then like, because we all change, we all grow into something different. And then like, once you both recognize, hey, I'm different, you're different. And like, we love each other, but we want different things. Why is that wrong to encourage each other to continue to grow and expand? And if that brings you to someone else, I just like, I don't understand what the problem is. And everybody just looks at me like, well, that's terrible. And I'm like, well, okay, but, when I got married this last time, I, explained that like, hey, I don't mind us getting married and having this life together, but I'm just going to let you know. And I told my kids the same thing. Y'all start driving me insane and causing me to have a bad life. Y'all got to go. I'm not doing that. Like, and then I don't encourage them to do that either. Like, I don't mean that you stay married and you cheat on everybody and you just do all this crap that everybody seems to be okay with. What's wrong with being open and honest and saying, okay, we've had 10 wonderful years together, but you want different things than I do. And like I said, I've always had a different way of thinking about things too. And it's like, well, who came up with this? And then I realized it's not good to have multiple. I'm not saying I would say, oh, let's go do a sister wife thing, but what's wrong with protecting your peace and your happiness?
you have to.
I would never encourage someone to stay in an abusive relationship just because you got married and that's what you're supposed to do for eternity. So that's just my take on it. Like I said, everybody's opinion and their lifestyle is fine. I'm one that doesn't seem to care what anybody does as long as you're not hurting anyone. I'm not judgmental, but yeah, I've always been different too. And then like, everybody in my family would be like, okay, like that's okay. They look at me like I'm the odd man out, but I've never really hid from it so much. It's just, I embrace who I am. And, they don't have to live my life and I don't have to live theirs. And that's kind of where we're going to with the world changing today. You've got so many people pulled in different directions. I just don't support things that pull people apart. I support things that pull people together. And that's just my choice. I don't have to agree with everybody's lifestyle or choice in music or clothes or whatever, but we are all human beings and we're the only animal on this planet that thoroughly enjoys hurting each other. And that's what I'm working to change. I don't know what programming that we've all gotten that makes that okay, but I want that to change. I want to help my neighbor and my other fellow humans and the animals on the planet and the plants and Mother Gaia. Like, I'm moving towards peace and existence with all. And that's the decisions I've made. So, but I would like to know, like, do you do in-person and distance sessions, or is all yours How do you like walk me through like if somebody was wanting to book with you, what that would look like?
All of my stuff right now is online. I did when I first started Reiki, I would do in person, but I no longer do that anymore. But I will make, like, if someone's local and someone wanted to come here, for sure I could make an exception. But typically all of my work is done over Zoom. I don't do too much energy work anymore, although I'm kind of getting back into it because I'm now actually halfway through a program for what we call spirit release, which is restoring sovereignty to an individual, clearing like low energetic vibrations, attachments, past life.
Baggage.
Trying
Yeah.
to think of the right word there, but yes. Past life attachments, things that are affecting you in this lifetime. And it's quite comprehensive. And I've always kind of been drawn to it, even though it kind of freaked me out a little bit. But I feel the same with mediumship, as I was always intrigued by it, but I always had this fear. But it was a fear based in not knowing what to expect. It wasn't actually that there was anything to fear. And that's something that I've grown to realize. I feel like, I was raised and programmed to believe, that this stuff is scary or it's evil. And I can assure you it's actually the quite opposite. But I feel like the system wants to keep you out of your power. So it wants to feed you that
I don't like
those
it.
lies,
Yeah.
right? To keep you from really connecting with yourself. So most of my stuff, yeah, is done online. But I would, if and I'm outside of Toronto, I'm actually in Canada. So if there was anyone local, I certainly would be willing to do that. I've actually been thinking recently, maybe I need to actually start um, maybe having my presence more locally, like maybe finding a shop that I can, rent a room for, one day a week, start doing some fairs, and really engage with some people that are local to me, because everyone I seem to work with is either in the US or they're in BC on the other side of Canada. It just so happened that those are the people that I've connected with. But recently I've been thinking maybe I need to start doing some more local integration and meeting some people that are more local.
Yeah, and I'm also getting a yes from my team too, and they're saying because when things start getting heated up and things start intensifying, then you are also going to be that anchor for your community.
Mm. And that's like, I feel like for me, it triggered that of like being seen, right? On like such a wide scale. Like I've come, so far sitting here with you today. A year ago, I would never do this, but it's like, and a lot of times too with manifestations, I think people need to know this, is you need the capacity to be able to hold something. So for me, that triggered that fear of like, oh my God, can I be seen on that level? What are people going to think about me? Because sometimes it's a little bit easier when we're online because we're not, there together. But I feel like that's the next step in my evolution, is to really step out even more of my comfort zone and do more local work to meet more people in the community, because it's that next step up. So that makes a lot of sense.
They're showing me you walking back into that high school, like not literally, but like they're just showing me like where that was a place that was uncomfortable for you.
Hmm.
You've come such a long way that you're going to have that confidence and be able to walk back into what they're showing me, like a community, and
Mm.
head up high and know who you are. And just like I said, it's not about pushing your beliefs or whatever onto anyone. It's just holding your presence of what you bring to the table.
Hmm. Oh, I
And
love that.
yeah, and being that light that just they're saying like just imagine who all is in your community that's looking for you, but they don't know you're there.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So
I
that's
love that.
showing me like, and I'm getting goosebumps. That's what they're showing me about. But it was funny how they used me. Like literally, I just saw you walking back into a high school, but walking in with your head up. That's
I have
cool.
a feeling, because they've shown me, like my guides have shown me like glimpses of the future. And I know that like it involves being on stage, and that petrifies me because I struggled with public speaking. And they were like, this is where we're going. And I've been doing trance and I've been channeling. And I'm like, okay. So I feel like all of these things are lining up, to like progress me forward because of what's coming in the next couple of years. So they've given me indications of that. So I'm just trying to to, I guess, enjoy the journey, not try to control it. And, you know, before I would have, maybe even canceled coming on because I was so scared to be seen, right? But now it's like, I feel like the message for people today is fear it and do it anyways.
Yeah. Well, that's what, like I
Step
said,
out.
told me. I was like, but I don't like watching myself. I pick myself apart. Oh, I'm
Mm.
from Alabama. Listen to me talk. It's like I do that stuff, and they're like, well, then just don't watch it. It's like, get on there, do your interview, and don't watch it if it bothers you. But this is what you need to do because people need to see you and people need to hear you because they keep telling me that it's not just about me working with people with my tools. Everybody's voice, everybody's presence and their aura has a frequency, has a broadcast, and you can't be found and you can't help people if you're not broadcasting. And that's kind of how they told it to me. And it was like, okay, I get that. And I just had to work, through my own, like you said, it's kind of funny how we both have that kind of, I guess,
Same.
called the witch's wound where, you must have been, prosecuted before in the past for showing who you really are. And unfortunately, you bring that with you a little bit. And I just
Yeah.
have to remind myself, like, it's okay now. Like, it's a safe time to speak. It's a safe time to be who you are. And you don't have to be everybody's cup of tea. You just have to be the right person's cup of tea.
That's right.
And I know certain individuals have been the turning point for myself, just meeting, certain individuals. And I want to be that for other people as well.
That's right. I love that. I love that. I definitely know this is not my first rodeo, so there's no way.
Like check engine lights for it to be a one-time event.
It's permanently on.
So like if we booked a session, how do you prepare to like to do like a online session with somebody? What does it look like for your preparation?
I try to switch it up actually. I used to be very like regimented and like I need to meditate for 45 minutes and I need to do this, this, and this. And I've kind of gotten away from that and kind of just been more flexible with it. I do like to sit in the power. I do feel like that is I always tell like, anyone that I do intuitive development with that sitting in the power, it's building that intuitive muscle. So that's going to be able to sustain your energy to be able to read multiple times in a day, but also to not burn you out. I'm actually really big on frequency. I love listening to frequencies. So I use frequencies to clear. I listen to actually, I do, I don't know if you've ever heard of Suzanne Giesman, but she has a hemisync. She's got a bunch of recordings and you listen to them with headphones and they actually create coherence in the hemisphere of the brain because there's a specific frequency that goes in on the right and a specific one that goes in on the left. And then it creates coherence, which coherence is where you want to be.
Yeah, like binaural beats, and it creates
Yes.
the different frequencies, and then it's kind of like addition or subtraction. If you listen to like 10 hertz here and 4 hertz here, then you're actually listening to 6. But yeah, it actually helps to connect the left and the right hemispheres. And so, a frequency practitioner, that's some of my tools and that I use. On the sound bed, I use the headset with the binaural beat. So not only do you get the auditory vibrations in the therapy, but every cell in your body is vibrating at this hertz. And so yeah, it's just which is a funny story. I had a man ask me before. He was like, what do you do? And I was like, well, I'm a nurse, but I'm a healer. And he said, oh, like Jesus. And I was like, well, yeah, but more like Jesus and Tesla combined because I like to use old school energy, hands-on healing like Jesus did. And I also like the techie part of it. I like the futuristic aspects of gadgets. And I use AOScan, and it's a company from Solex, and they have these 2 little transducers that you can place on the body. So instead of like buying every tuning fork out there, you can just use the transducers to play the tuning fork. And it's not like you're having to strike it every 30 seconds. It's just a consistent, 528 or whatever you want to initiate. And they are so cool. But like it's
That's super
having to
cool.
buy like $2,000 worth of tuning forks or sound bowls or whatever, you can just use these little transducers and you can operate whatever tones and hertz that you want. So yeah, I like the techie part of it. There's nothing wrong with the old school tuning forks and sound bowls and all that. I still use those too, but I like the tech part.
Sure. For
Yeah.
sure. And then sometimes I dance before a session. It depends because I feel like I'm not the type of person, I can't meditate for like 45 minutes every single day. I feel like my best results come when I'm more flexible. I try different things, different meditations, different sound frequencies. Sometimes I dance. Um, so yeah, it really just depends on the day
Yeah.
and how I'm feeling. I kind of just trust, you know, whatever's flowing to me that day, it just feels right and I just follow it.
Yeah. I love that because I'm not a scripted by the book person either.
Mhm.
So what I'll talk to another healer and they're like, oh well, you got to do this and this and this and this, and if you don't, I just don't feel like that's me. I
Mhm.
have to start getting into like a spiritual hygiene, you know, routine. But other than that, yeah, I'm kind of like you. I just whatever I feel for the day, it's kind of I just go for it. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, so I love that.
I think
Well,
the fundamentals are important though. Like
yeah,
I think grounding, clearing your field and setting sacred space 100%. But when it comes to being so rigid on like, you know, I need to do this, this and this, that's where I have a little bit more flexibility and I've allowed that to flow. So I just wanted to say that for the viewers.
yeah, I feel like there's those things that that are important that you don't just dismiss, but having a set, okay, I've got to, like you said, meditate for 45 minutes, walk barefoot outside for 10. I don't have that rigidity to a routine as well. But yeah, it was hard for me. I think it's hard when you have self love issues, getting into a routine of doing for yourself, and then when you become spiritual, learning, oh, I've got a whole other set of things that I have to do for myself was a little overwhelming. But then once I started doing them, I was like, oh, why? I look back and like, why was it so hard for me to take 10 minutes for myself?
Hmm. That's all you need too. 10
Yeah,
minutes, like I always
yeah,
tell the busy moms that, right? You don't need an hour. If you have 5, 10 minutes to sit in the power or do a quick meditation or clear your field, you do that consistently, you will see progress.
exactly. And it's like, I guess the programming, I don't have another excuse because like it just seemed like it was so hard for me to start doing those things. And then once I started, it was so easy and so enjoyable. You have that moment of why did it take so long for you to get to this point? This is great.
Mm,
But tell us
that's part of the journey.
about how they can book with you or how they can send you a message or get a hold of you.
Yeah, my website is actually www.thenofiltermedium.com. And I call myself that because if you're drawn to me, it's probably because I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear. So, and I'm all about spiritual growth, empowerment. So if you feel drawn to me, it's probably because you're going to be drawn to those characteristics.
And I resonated with that too, so it makes total sense. I always tell people if you don't want to know, please don't ask me because I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you just what you want to hear.
That's
All
right. Yes.
right, we'll stay on after we get off here because I wanted to chat a little longer, but I'm going to kind of wrap this up for the viewers and keep it into the frequency hour. But I appreciate you coming on and stepping out of your comfort zone and taking 2026 into the hands and being in more control of what you're guiding for your own choose your own adventure book for the year. And I am excited to get back with you in a few months and even see what's changed from today because I see it and I feel it like that you're on the verge of wonderful new beginnings for a lot of things.
Thank you so much, April. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.